taking it too personally, but it's also just like you shouldn't be dumping your problems on your kid regardless of whether they're queer or not.
And it shouldn't make a difference whether your child is straight or queer, because if you're before your child came out to you, you assume that they were straight, I'm sure.
Okay, we can write about that for a while.
And then if they asked you and told you they needed support, you'd give it to them. But they tell you that they don't want to use the same pronouns anymore, or they don't want to, like, have crushes or, like, date the same gender that they have been. It's an issue. I just am not a fan of that concept, because it shouldn't change. It's not your business, really, even. They're just telling you so you can be a part of their lives, and you should be thanking them for that.
That's
because it is hard to do, and you don't realize until it's in the moment that you're doing it, and like it's not a fun time. But when you do positive way, if that makes any sense, I don't know.
That's really well said.
Oh, you were talking about guilt tripping, and my friends all enjoy ranting, and I all enjoy listening to their rants. And I had a friend.
Whatever it is, like, you shouldn't be using your support against your child. Like, it's your responsibility to care for your child, and if you, like, are guilt-tripping your child by saying, like, well, I give you this, so, like, I don't know why you're so ungrateful, like, that's just not...
Ungrateful. That word.
That's a word that queer kids get a lot, and, like,
oh my God,
you as
it
a
makes me
parent, like,
so
like, as Steve
mad.
was saying, like, you should be thankful that your kid told you this, because it's so hard, and it's, like...
Because they'd be
like
lying
letting
to
you
you.
into their lives.
Yeah.
You don't want your kid lying to you.
Would you rather have them live a lie every single day, or would you rather them, like, be happy? Because I just don't understand why it is such a big deal. Like, it's not changing them.
Your kid is still the same kid.
They have been queer. Well, you have thought they're
now.
straight and cis, whatever. You treated them just fine when they were queer, and
they've always been queer.
Yeah,
your kid isn't changing. They've always been this way.
But when they realized it,
gender might be changing depending on how they identify.
But it's not. It doesn't change their personality. It's not
because queer isn't a personality trait.
Exactly. People need to stop using that, because it is not a personality trait. It can be how you express yourself, absolutely, but...
I mean, odd is a personality trait.
But I think also that, like, some people, like, I had, like, a friend tell me after I came out to them, they were like, this is weird, like, your personality has changed, like, over the course of, like, a week, because before you were saying all this stuff about, like, I don't know, like, whatever that they considered, like, feminine or something, or me blatantly stating that I'm not trans, and then,
maybe,
like, but
maybe
then
you were lying.
like, they're talking about, like, my personality changing, but it's like, if you feel like someone's personality has changed, like, you should consider the fact that, like, maybe it was because they were, like, overcompensating for being closeted because they felt like they needed to,
maybe this
is their
like, real personality,
yeah,
being
like,
able
this
to
is their
show
real
through
personality
now.
being revealed, and them becoming more comfortable in themselves, not like them changing personalities because of like something they read or something their friend said. Like, you need to realize that this has been like a gradual process and that they've thought about it a lot. It's not just like a sudden change.
And it's acceptable to not like someone because of their personality. It's not acceptable to not like someone because they're queer, because queer isn't a personality trait.
And the change could be them feeling more free and
it's
a
the
sense
best
of
feeling.
relief and a sense of self-expression. Like, that could be a shift. It's not a change, it's a shift, because they are expressing the person who they were exactly meant to be, and that is not anyone's thing or place to judge. So like you're saying, it's not a personality trait, and it doesn't change your personality, but I believe that it is a very freeing thing, and it can absolutely increase your state of mind, which is wonderful, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's not a sickness, which, like, I hear a lot, they're not irregular, they're happy. Like,
yeah, if you think they've changed rapidly, it's because like coming out has like it changes people for the better, and like there's also a lot of like stigma about like, you know, how you can't change a lot, and there's a lot of like we were just talking about, like they haven't changed, and that's true, but also like if people have changed, and if people were very sure that they were straight a few years ago and now they have just come out to you, like even if they were sure themselves and it wasn't something they were hiding and they just like changed and grew and learned from that, like that's completely valid too. Like you don't have to have been like, I didn't know I was trans for my whole life. It wasn't something I've been hiding since I was like 2 years old. Like it's something that I realized, and I don't think I would have been comfortable like expressing myself like that when I was like a little kid. But like people's like gender is fluid and sexuality is fluid and whatever, like you can change and grow, and you don't have to have been the same your whole life.
If someone didn't change at all their entire life, their personality didn't change, nothing changed, it'd be a little weird. Yeah, like if I remained a 1-year-old, like a personality of a 1-year-old my entire life, that's a little odd.
So boring. Like you would.
Or just like really entertaining.
Yeah. Yes, but
one of the two.
It would be the same thing. It would be the same thing for your entire life, and who would want that?
So we may have gotten a little sidetracked.
That's okay.
It's okay. This is a good conversation.
It's productive conversation.
It's knowledge. Here you go.
But
here's your knowledge.
Seek it out. But the allies in the school community.
Yeah.
I know you can talk about this, and I want to listen to you talk about this.
Okay.
So please talk about this.
Okay.
Administration, teachers, and students.
Yeah.
And friends, which is kind of like
students.
that kind of...
Yeah.
Peers.
Yeah.
Let's go peers.
Yeah.
Peers.
I think that people don't always understand how super important it is for teachers to be good allies and like for the school to be a really accepting place, because there's a lot of like teachers or schools or like administration, whatever it is, who will just like, there's these stickers. I don't know if they have, I don't know how many schools they have those at, but it's just like a little sticker that has a rainbow flag and it says like safe space and like I'm an ally. And so they put it, like teachers will put that on their doors.
They think that makes them an ally.
And they're like, okay, this makes me an ally. Like I guess my queer students know that this is a safe space now, and like they'll be fine. Like that's good enough. But the reality is that like you have to earn that, and you have to really support your students and like listen to your students. And a lot of that is just like recognizing that like and like recognizing that you can't like it's a lot like I think being an ally as a parent, in that like you shouldn't assume a default about your students. So if you're having like a class discussion, for instance, about queer rights, a lot of teachers like sort of organize that as if it's
as though everyone's straight.
Yeah, as if everyone's straight, and it's like a fun debate that you're having. And it's like in reality you're probably like hurting a lot of students in your classroom, because you almost definitely like you definitely have queer kids in your classroom. You probably have some trans kids in your classroom, and you need to be able to support
anyways.
them. Montpelier's really gay. But just like so those discussions, right? When before I was out, I had a suspicion that I was queer, like a little thought, and we had like discussions like that, and I was like, okay, who will probably hate me?
Yeah, it's like
I was like looking around, and I was like, okay, you're probably gonna be fine with me, so I'm gonna talk to you. You probably hate me. That's cool. I'm gonna go over here.
Yeah, it's
I could like figure it out and like weed out
for like teacher, if the teacher's cishet, and for the cishet students, it's just like a topic to discuss, and maybe you can like tie it to some current events or something, like whatever, that's great, but you're probably not noticing that there are some comments being made that are hurtful, and like you need to be really educated about those topics as a teacher so that you understand what's going on in your classroom environment. Because if students feel like they're, you know, like if a classmate makes some like homophobic comment or joke, and it's just like, maybe it's not noticeable to the teacher, but the queer kids in that classroom immediately recognize like, okay, like I'm not necessarily safe around that person. If the teacher doesn't recognize that and learn to understand like how students communicate that, then it's going to be like not a safe space, so you can't just like slap the safe space sticker on your door and call it a day.
And it's not like you have to get a huge rainbow flag and hang it.
I mean, you could.
You could, but you just need to
make
show in everyday life that you
can people
support this. Yeah, and like it's
another thing is like
I have a question for you before we quickly change topics, because this is a question that you just said. Say a kid makes a homophobic comment in class and the teacher recognizes it. What should they do? What should their reaction be? Should they call it out, or should they just let it slide and not draw attention to it?
So I think
Yes. What should they do?
I think that I've like seen this happen before, and I've had teachers who have had different responses to that. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. I think the best thing to do there is be able to call out the issue without victimizing or like publicly shaming the person.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, like you don't want to just let it slide and pretend it didn't happen, but you also don't want to be like, hey, like you just said a really awful thing, and this is why you're wrong, and like now let's have a whole class discussion about how like what a terrible person you are, because like
one, that takes away class time. Two, you're shaming a person.
Well, like you're shaming a person, and I think then students that also like takes a little bit away from that person's chance to like learn and grow. And I'm not trying to defend students who make homophobic comments, but I just think that like it's more productive as a teacher to like say, hey, like that comment wasn't so good, and here's why, and then explain like the issue and have some students talk about it in like an organized and civil manner, because otherwise oftentimes like it'll turn into a
chaos
interaction outside of class, or it'll just turn into a bunch of people yelling at each other, because if you call the student out and talk about and call them out like you said this terrible thing and like how could you say that, then it turns into just like a bunch of yelling and nobody learns anything.
Or someone resulting in getting hurt in some way. Doesn't have to be physically. It can be like emotionally or like verbally. Like know your times. Like pull someone aside after class if they've made a homophobic comment in front of anyone, really. Even if like just mind your surroundings, which could also lead into another topic, but we don't have to do that. Like coming of that soon eventually. After this conversation, we should talk about confidentiality, but for sure there's some more things we should add.
One final thing for that.
Absolutely.
I also want to talk about name change after that.
Yes, definitely. Something that has been voiced to me by teachers and stuff is they don't want to like turn the whole class into that, like into that discussion, because they do have things they need to teach. Like if you're I don't know, a Latin teacher, you're not going to want to turn your entire conversation into how to not be homophobic, even though ancient Rome was kind of pretty gay.
Yeah, I think, well, like,
going off of wait to get to high school, babe.
Yeah. But, like, I think going off of that also, like, you should, as a teacher, be able to prioritize, because I think I've had a lot of teachers in the past who are, like, as soon as you get off track, it's like, nope, we're bringing it back to the lesson we were studying. And it's like, that's not always the right thing to do. So I've had, like, in some situations, it's really, like, your students are getting off track and the conversation just isn't productive in any way, and it makes sense to lead them back. But if your whole class is having a civil, respectful conversation about queer rights, or if it's a not so respectful conversation that you can turn into like a learning moment for the whole class, then like if you really think about it, like that's just as important, if not more important, than whatever subject you're teaching. So you should be able to prioritize and just like let go a little bit and be able to say, like, okay, let's talk about this, because this is probably going to really affect some of the students outside the class.
And even if it's like, if there's something that you don't understand, you can even learn about it. Like, it's not like, even if you're a teacher, you can still learn about this, because like, just because you're teaching people things doesn't mean that you can't learn things at the same time. So
you can always say, like,
about to say that is that a lot of teachers, I was talking about this with a bunch of other queer students and teachers and all of that, and teachers voiced the concern of like, I don't know if I can properly talk about that and teach that in a school setting, because they assume they have to be the teacher, which like, yes, it's your job title, but like learning from your students, like parents learn from your kids, teachers learn from your students. Because learn from the people who can talk a little bit more about that topic, so that next time you can feel more comfortable talking about it and what you're saying.
I think that like teachers who are willing to say, like, take a step back and just say, okay, I don't know as much of this about this topic that I'd like to, and then you can just say, you know, like, I don't think I know enough about this for this to be a productive conversation, and either let your students take it from there, or if you feel like that's not going to work, depending on like the age group or the particular group of students or whatever the conversation is, you can also just be like, I don't know enough about this right now, I'm going to research it, we can talk about it, whatever, like next class, because you don't want to just like, admitting that you don't know about the topic isn't an excuse to just be like, okay, let's just avoid the topic, like use that to learn, I think.
So you wanted to go into confidentiality or
I think,
name
yeah,
changes first? Wait.
We can even talk about like both at the same time.
Name changes and confidentiality?
Because in the school system, even confidentiality is also important. Because I don't know, we can, you can continue to talk about name change and then kind of segue into confidentiality, because
the two are very
connected. Unless a student expresses that they don't want you to we'll come back to that.
Unless a student is like, okay, you can share this, that's fine. You can talk about this with other people, then go ahead. But
ask them.
But if they don't explicitly say you can share this, don't share it. Right. Base rule, but let's go into name changes first, and then we'll connect the two in a casual manner.
Putting that in mind while we talk about this.
So should I talk about like what should happen, or an example of what shouldn't happen? Because I've had experience.
A little bit of both would be actually really good.
I think honestly, out of the three of us, out of the three of us, you're definitely the most experienced talking about this. I haven't changed my name. I don't think Steve's changed my name.
I kind of have, but not not officially, because
because I'm Jules and you're Steve, both nicknames, but you're Oliver. That's your full last name. Oliver Jacob Simon something. Jacob Jonathan Simon. So many middle names. Continue.
Okay. So I want to start off by mentioning a way that you shouldn't do it, because I want to be able to talk about like why that's wrong. Because a lot of teachers are like, okay, here's like a student talking about how they want to change their name. I guess this is the logical course of action. And sometimes that's just wrong, even if you have good intention. In this case, the person didn't, but
so
it's fine.
To clarify, we're talking about changing your name in the school system, not legally.
Not legally.
Because on your birth certificate, it still says your dead name, correct?
Yeah.
But in the school, on roll call, it's Oliver, correct?
Yeah.
So how did that come to pass?
So I also want to maybe like mention how to go about that for students.
How old were you? Like, were you in middle school or high school?
It would have been like 13? Yeah, 13.
8th grade then?
8th grade.
Yeah, 8th grade.
It was 8th grade. I remember.
So
you remember it.
Oh, the tea.
It was a process.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's spill that tea.
The first thing I did, I think I talked to we had a really great social worker at that school. So
bless them.
I'm gonna snap because
that's really important. Also, how to be a good ally as an administrator in school.
There's
make sure you have really, really supportive social workers who are really supportive and educated about queer topics.
I love that woman.
Super important.
Love that woman.
But
continue.
Sorry. Yeah, but about that. So they were able to change my email first of all, and then there's a slightly more complicated process for changing your name.
It might be different
in
our
our school for changing your name in like the online system, because you need like parental permission and stuff. And so,
it's a process.
I want to change my name like this. Please don't.
If they're a good teacher, they'll probably change it.
And then they can help you like figure out a way to let other students know and figure that whole process out. But what happened with this teacher is I told him I was changing my name, and I told him that in the next class period, like, that was going to be my name, and the way I wanted it to happen, because I think ideally, this would be a super smooth way to do it, is, like, just change your name on the attendance sheet, and then the teacher calls your new name, and you answer to that, and then everyone in the class is like, oh, okay.
That's your name.
Like, that's your name now, and if they have questions about it, like...
that was ideal, but what happened?
Yeah, so
did that happen?
No, that did not happen. So
I have a feeling.
The teacher told me that so I was like, okay, can you please call my name on attendance as Oliver? And he was reading the sheet of attendance. He walked over to me, whispered Oliver, and I was like, I'm here. I was like, you don't have to whisper. And so I talked to him about it afterwards, and he claimed that like
that must have looked so weird.
That me changing my name was going to be like an interruption to the class, and that it was going to get people off track. And I just think that, like, teachers need to recognize that that's not what's important. Like, it's not important that you get your extra, like, 10 minutes of your algebra lesson. Like, it's more important that your students
don't care about algebra.
It literally doesn't matter.
30 seconds.
It was more disruptive because I had to, like, I was like, no, I'm talking to you in the hallway, and I made him come out in the hallway with me and lectured him on why he's being stupid.
But imagine how weird that'd be, too. Like, during roll call, the teacher gets to your name, Oliver, and then goes back to doing roll call.
Like, there's a convenient
they walk to your desk and, like, knelt down and whispered.
So I definitely want to, like,
Oliver!
For
You look insane!
Like, for teachers who are wanting to be supportive of students changing their names, I think what you need to do is, like, meet with your student if they're not sure how to go about it, and you can do it by, like, changing their name on the attendance list and just calling it, or if it's, like, a bigger class or whatever, like, whatever reason that doesn't work, then you can also have them, like, talk to the class and organize a way for them to tell the class that's not, like, super intimidating, so that it can be not really a discussion, but just, like, a welcoming space and establishing that. So, like, I had another teacher who did this really well, who, like, came up and, like, talked a little bit about, like, trans issues, like, queer issues and all that, and just, like, how to be accepting and how to be a good student ally, and then, like, gave it to me to talk about my name change, and I think that's also a good way to do it.
So,
but, like, ultimately it's up to the student, so don't force your student to do anything they're not comfortable with.
I actually have 3 things that I had devised as you were sitting there, as you were talking. 1, the social worker you mentioned, tip for any, like, not that any social workers watching this, but tip, she was also one of our GSA advisors.
Yeah, that's great.
So any queer kid already knew she's an ally. So amazing
That's
woman.
good to know.
Yeah, and another thing, like, you're talking about name changes and roll calls and all that, and I personally was super lucky, because my birth name is Julia, and Jules is obviously can be a nickname of that. So literally, and I don't care if I hear the name Julia, because I'm just so used to hearing it. So, like, literally for roll call, like, a sub's calling my name, they go Julia, and I go, yeah, Jules, and then we just move on.
Yeah.
And that was, like, I understand, like, your name was a bigger shift and all of that.
Yeah.
But, like, if anyone wants to just switch to a nickname that's more gender neutral, it's literally, it was a little uncomfortable at first.
That's a good first step, though, because then people are used to...
Because you did that for a little bit. You had, like, a tradition name, right?
Yeah, but, like, I think for a lot of people that helps a little bit, because if you use, like, a nickname, you can either pass it off as a nickname and just have it make you more comfortable without, like, coming out about it, or you can say, like, here, this is my name, this makes me more comfortable for now, I'll be changing it again in the future, and then people are used to, like, they have a chance to adjust and call you by a new name, so then they're not, like, it's not a huge deal when you, like, find your new name.
And the thing is, too, like, I'm probably never going to legally change my name from Julia. It just seems like a big hassle, and I probably would never do that on my birth certificate. And I will probably always ask people to call me Jules. Like, that's probably always what I'm going to be doing, because I like that. It's gender neutral. So, like, the legal thing was never, like, a huge deal, because I can just easily nickname it and be like, oh, it's just what I like to be called. And I had a third thing. If you remember, I said 3. Your name is now changed in the school system, correct?
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you need parental consent? Legally, do you need parental consent to do that?
In our school system. I don't know how this works elsewhere.
Is it a legal thing?
I don't know if it's like a federal...
It's not a legal thing through school districts.
Yeah, I don't know how that works for different school districts. For ours, I just had to bring in, like, a signed note that said I could change my name in
like a note to get in a gym class.
Yeah, literally.
I'm queer. Here's my note. I'm sorry, I can't participate today in class. I'm queer.
It's I haven't experienced this, but I've taken lots of time to do research on how it is with other schools, and it's very it's a process that's very different in other places. So I think that we actually have it in, like, an okay thing, because
we're really lucky in our school system.
Our school system is, like, we're not sitting here trying to complain about our school system.
No,
because
not
it's
at
so
all.
good.
Some of the teachers and some of the
individual people could, like,
but, like, the school
but the school in general altogether is so good. MHS, you just wait, baby. You wait till you get to MHS. Best school. in the world.
But it's fine.
It's okay.
Lovely. Confidentiality.
Yes.
Speaking of which, you just exposed what school we go to, so.
We're in Montpelier. They know we're in Montpelier. They know we're freshmen.
That's true.
It's not that hard to figure out. Confidentiality, which we touched on a little bit. If your student, we touched on how to we do weird confidentiality by whispering their name in their ear.
But
not
also confidentiality when people
though.
being secretive when people don't want you to is really annoying.
So being secretive,
if
so
you're trying to be an
obviously.
ally, but then you're like, oh, I just want to make sure you're comfortable when they specifically asked you to have a group discussion.
It also makes you feel like it's something you need to hide too if it's secretive.
Yeah.
They encourage that you need to be secretive about this and hide this.
Yeah.
Even though you don't.
Yeah. If they told you to put your name out there on roll call,
that's kind of a message.
That's not them asking for you to keep it confident. That is
literally them telling you to do the opposite. It's not going to be a shock to you. Don't tell anyone right now.
By all the gay people.
It's fun. We love it.
It's such a good time, but there is a thing with that. It's not